buildings or C-69 or tanker bans. That is a record they can't run away from. I've seen nothing to indicate that they're going to change course on that. In fact, the new Prime Minister has written his book on values, that we have somebody at the table for 4 years who can negotiate a renewed Canada-US free trade agreement so that we can end this back and forth on a tariff war, which is benefiting no one. Well, I think MLA Sinclair didn't have full information. As you can see, what we do is we do blanket announcements for high-level budget, and then we do the granular announcements.
Mark Carney just got absolutely destroyed by Danielle Smith in what might be the most brutal political takedown this year. The Alberta Premier exposed Carney's hidden carbon tax scheme that would cripple Alberta's energy sector while pretending to help ordinary Canadians. Meanwhile, Freedom Convoy protesters are facing a mind-blowing $272 million lawsuit while other protesters walk free. The double standard is so obvious, it's sickening. Want to know what's really happening behind the scenes? You're in the right place. Ever wonder what a political assassination looks like without a single drop of blood? Alberta Premier Danielle Smith just gave us a masterclass in gutting Mark Carney's entire energy policy with surgical precision. Smith didn't mince words when confronting Carney's hidden agenda. The Prime Minister has made his views very clear about keeping oil and gas in the ground. He wants a hidden carbon tax, not a transparent one, she declared.
In Lesser Slave Lake, there's $134 million of a total $239 million towards the road project that he identified in his post. That's Highway 88, which is absolutely a priority. But we know that there's need all over the province, and so we've got to make sure that we balance that. I wish we could build every school that was needed everywhere all at once, and every road that was needed everywhere all out. And in fact, in the transportation budget, the largest share of it is going to Northern Alberta. We've got some big projects up there to make sure that we can start building a pathway to get between Grand Prairie and Fort McMurray, as well as a second road.
Ripping away the polite political veneer to expose what's really happening to Alberta's energy sector. What's truly alarming is how Smith meticulously laid out the coordinated federal attack on Alberta's vital economic lifeline. She detailed the systematic destruction of their pipeline infrastructure, pointing out the federal government's tactics. I had a whole range of things that are problematic with the federal government, from emissions caps to tanker bans off the West Coast, the inability to approve pipelines, getting approvals, and then having them pulled, having a convoluted regulatory process that makes it impossible to get new pipelines built. Notice the pattern? First, they make you jump through impossible regulatory hoops. Then, if you somehow manage to get approval, they mysteriously yank it away. It's death by 1,000 regulatory cuts. But the smoking gun came when Smith highlighted Carney's own damning admission that carbon prices have been set far too low. Translation: once he gets his hands on power, expect these hidden taxes to skyrocket. The man literally told us his plan, but somehow we're supposed to ignore it. When you step back and look at the big picture, the federal strategy becomes crystal clear. Block pipelines, impose export restrictions, slowly strangle Alberta's massive $150 billion oil and gas industry through regulatory warfare, while pretending it's all for the environment.
I would say that everyone just needs to be patient as we roll things out, and we have every interest in making sure that we prioritize the needs that are put forward by our MLAs. The ask is for a high an acetaminophen that could be used as a replacement, high dosage acetaminophen that could be used as a replacement for opioids. We've assembled the paperwork, and as I understand it, the health minister is working on getting that available to the media as soon as she can.
Thank you, Len.
Smith's takedown was perfectly timed, coming right after Carney's embarrassing carbon tax cancellation stunt. As Smith bluntly put it, this was nothing more than a meaningless piece of paper with zero legal authority, pure political theater. Ouch. Nothing like calling out a political puppet show for what it is. Her confrontation with Doug Ford was equally devastating, revealing the real-world consequences of energy security threats. Smith pointed out how when electricity to the U.S. was threatened, it triggered an immediate increase of a tariff threat to 50% on steel and aluminum. This isn't abstract policy. These political games have immediate economic consequences for regular Canadians. Political games have immediate economic consequences for regular Canadians. But nothing compares to the financial warfare being unleashed against Freedom Convoy supporters. What started as a $4.5 million lawsuit has exploded to a staggering $290 million, targeting not just organizers but potentially every Canadian who donated through Give, Send, Go. Since when did supporting a protest warrant financial destruction? The Ontario Court of Appeal just doubled down on this madness, refusing to dismiss the case even though Justice Mosley previously ruled that Trudeau's emergency measures were completely unconstitutional. It's like watching a judicial system with selective amnesia, forgetting important legal precedents when it's politically convenient. Justice David Brown, writing for the court, had the audacity to claim they correctly weighed the harm to residents against the public interest of the protest. Apparently, in today's Canada, the public interest only matters when it aligns with government priorities. The court even rejected arguments that the protest served a greater purpose, stating there was no evidence police directed truckers where to park or to honk their horns. How convenient to ignore the initial police cooperation that protesters experienced. The lawsuit alleges downtown Ottawa residents and businesses suffered significant losses from the honking and disruption. Let's get this straight. Horn honking in Ottawa is apparently worth more in damages than all the economic devastation Trudeau's policies have inflicted on Canadians for 9 years. Make it make sense. The hypocrisy becomes even more glaring when you look at how Palestinian protesters are treated in Ottawa. They've been banging drums and making noise for far longer than the Freedom Convoy ever did, yet face absolutely zero legal consequences for the exact same behaviors. One group gets a $290 million lawsuit, the other gets police protection. This isn't justice, it's targeted punishment. Let's call this what it really is, a strategic move to intimidate and financially cripple those who dare challenge government actions. It sends a chilling message to every Canadian. Disagree with the government and we'll bankrupt you and everyone who supported you. When emergency powers fail, they'll weaponize the courts against you instead. This case represents a dangerous slippery slope where your right to protest now depends entirely on what you're protesting against. Support the wrong cause and you could lose everything. The contrast in treatment between Freedom Convoy supporters and other protest groups reveals something deeply disturbing about the state of democracy in Canada. Dissent is being criminalized, but only if it challenges the ruling party's agenda. Let's face it, folks. The connection between Smith's takedown of Carney and this massive Freedom Convoy lawsuit isn't coincidental, it's systematic. And now the latest polls confirm what we already knew. Poilievre's popularity has jumped 5 points, while Carney's approval is tanking. Canadians are finally seeing through the smoke and mirrors. This election isn't some routine political exercise anymore. It's literally a fight for Canada's survival. Alberta's energy independence hangs by a thread, while ordinary Canadians who dared to honk a horn face financial ruin from lawsuits designed to crush them. The message couldn't be clearer. Oppose the establishment and they'll destroy you. What's happening is nothing short of a political purge wrapped in bureaucratic language. The polls are shifting because Canadians recognize that same corrupt playbook being used against both Alberta's resources and peaceful protesters. If we don't change course now, there won't be much of a Canada left to save.